Hey, good day everyone. We will be discussing about parametric equations, partial derivatives, and limits of indeterminate forms. First, let's deal with parametric equations. No? So there are many functions that cannot be modeled by a function of x. No? So there is typically a third variable, typically time, no? Especially in physics applications. So x is a function of time, y is also a function of time. So there is a common variable linking those two variables. Now, how do we find the derivative of a parametric function in terms of the other variable? So that is the chain rule, no? So we have the derivative with respect to x of y function of time. Now, since y is a function of time, we cannot directly differentiate it with respect to x. First, we must differentiate y with respect to its own independent variable. Then, we differentiate that independent variable with respect to x. Now, to make it more intuitive, you can treat these derivatives as fractions. Let's say this dy dt is a very small change in y over a very small change in t. That way, you can just, cancel those dt, leaving you with dy dx, now the derivative you want to find in the first place. Okay? Now, since we can treat it as fraction, this dt over dx, we can rearrange it as a denominator. So that will leave us with dy dt over dx over dt. No? So actually, this version is more, intuitive. Okay? Uh, you can also see it as, let's say, we have this dy with dx. You multiply the numerator by 1 over dt. Since you're multiplying the numerator, you also have to multiply the denominator with the same value, leaving us with this one. Okay. Next, what about the second derivative? So you have to apply, this same concept here, this one. So instead of dy dx, you have the derivative with respect to x of dy over dx. So you also have to apply this, no? We have the derivative with respect to time of that over dx over e. So those are just formulas, no? You still have to include examples. Okay, let's answer this example. Given the parametric equations, x equals t squared and y equals t cubed, find dy over dx and the second derivative of y with respect to x at t equals 2. So first we have to find their derivatives. Is dx dt is equal to 2t and dy over dt is 3t squared. Next, can now find the dy over dx. That is simply the fraction of dy over dt over dx over dt. Okay, this one here, use that one. Okay, you have 3 squared over e, leaving us with 3 over 2t. Now, we have to find that value at t equals 2. Therefore, we have to substitute 2 to the t, giving us with 3 over 2 times 2, that is equal to 3. Right, we got our first answer. Now, what about the second derivative with respect to x? Okay, we'll follow this formula. So let's look at the dy over dx, that is, 3t squared. Right? We don't use the substituted version, use the function. So let's differentiate it with respect to time. Okay, look at the numerator now. We differentiate that one with respect to time. Is uh, differentiate with respect to time d 3 over 2t, leaving us with 3 halves. Okay, then we use that one as the numerator. So for the second derivative of y with respect to x, we have 3 over 2, and the denominator is your dx over dt. That is 2t. Okay, leaving us with 3 over 4t. Okay, then we have to substitute 2 to the t. So we have 3 over 4 is 2, that is equal to 3 over 8. Okay, this is our final answer. Okay, so we can delve onto more complicated examples on our next sessions. For now, let's proceed to the basic concepts of the partial derivatives of multivariable functions. So we will only be discussing the basic concepts now. The more nuanced applications will be dealt with later. Okay, so engineering systems don't usually deal with only one variable. No? There are different variables at play. For example, the location, the temperature. No? But it is useful to isolate the rate of change of one variable with respect to others. No? That is very useful, especially in analysis. No? What is partial derivative? That is isolating the rate of change with respect to one variable while holding others constant. Okay, for the notation, we typically use this one, the del, no? But that is usually read as partial f, this partial f of partial f partial x. You can just read it as that, but that is the partial derivative of f with respect to x. It is the more proper, but you can just read it as partial f partial x. We can also write that as the function with a subscript of x. Okay, so how do we apply it? So we have to treat y and all other variables as fixed numbers. Then using the normal rules of differentiation, we perform that only on x. Okay, let's try now. Let's say we have a multivariable function that is in the slides. Now, if you want to find the derivative or the partial derivative with respect to x, you have to treat y and z as constants. Okay, let me write that down. That is that's 3x minus 7 and 4y. Right. So if we have find the partial w, partial x, okay, let's look at the first term. We have x squared y. Since we have to treat y as constant, we only have to analyze the x squared term. So that will become 2xy. As you can see, the derivative of 2 of x squared is 2x. And since y is a constant, we have to leave it out of the differentiation. Next, the next term doesn't have an x variable. Therefore, it is purely treated as a constant, and the derivative of a constant is 0. For the next term, that 43x, so that is 43. Then for the last term, since there's no x there, that is purely treated as a constant. Therefore, our partial w partial x is equal to 2xy plus 43. Okay, next, it's 43. Okay. What about the partial z? No, partial w partial z. So the first term is a constant. Since there's no z in that term, the second term, we have to leave out 10y squared in the differentiation. So that leaves us with 10y squared. We only have to differentiate negative z cubed. So that is negative 3z squared. Simplifying, we have negative 30 y squared z squared. Okay, what about the y? So you can do that on your own, no? Let's proceed. What about higher order partial derivatives? Okay, so actually, no, the order matters, especially in general cases. So we have notation f of f sub xx. Now, what does that mean? It means that you're taking the second partial derivative of f with respect to x and then with respect to x again. What about this is no, I can also write it as second partial derivative of f with respect to x. All right. But this one is more compact now. It's more that is the typically used notation. Now, what about the mixed partial derivatives f of f sub x and y rather? Is second partial derivative of f with respect to partial x, partial y. You have to differentiate with respect to partial x and then differentiate with respect to partial y. Now, does the order matter, sir? Since we can also differentiate with respect to y first and then x. That is f partial y partial x. Now, if the function is continuous, we can invoke Clairaut's theorem. I don't know how to pronounce that, Clairaut, but that's just read the name. For continuous functions, the mixed partial derivatives are identical. We can try to prove that one. So let's solve an example for the function f of x and y equals x squared plus 5xy plus 2y squared. First, let's find the f of x, since we are tasked to find the first, the second, and the cross partial derivatives. First partial, let's say f with this partial f with respect to partial x. So the first term will become 2x. The second term will become 5y, since x is differentiated to 1, then 2y squared will become 0. What about f sub y? So the first term will become 0, the second term will become 5x, and the third term will become 4y. What about the second partial derivative? So let's take the f sub x and differentiate it with respect to x. Okay, put an arrow here. 2x will become 2, 5y will become 0, since there's no x there. Now what about the second partial derivative of f with respect to partial y? That is, let me put an arrow there. 5x will become 0 and 4y will become 4. Now, what about the mixed partial derivatives? Let's say xy. So, you can use this, no? Since we have already differentiated with respect to x, we can now differentiate with respect to y. So, let's differentiate this, no? Let's differentiate this with respect to y this time. So 2x is treated as constant. 5y will become 5. Now, what about the reverse? Let's say f sub yx. So we can use f sub y that we solved earlier, then differentiate it with respect to x this time, okay? So this one, we differentiate with respect to x. So 5x will become 5 and 4y is treated as constant, therefore its derivative is 0. As you can see, the mixed partial derivatives f sub xy and f sub yx yield the same result. Now you have to be careful now. You have to make sure that the functions are continuous. Now the definition for continuity that is discussed now, the earlier part of the course. You can review that if you wish. Next topic, we have limits involving indeterminate forms. And the tool that we use to solve those, that is the L'Hopital's rule. Okay. Before, we have already discussed the techniques no, for evaluating limits. So this is usually, you can take this, you can think of this one as a shortcut. Now, since we can solve some of these problems using the previously discussed techniques. Okay, let's proceed. So when evaluating boundaries, where standard substitution fails, leaving us with 0 over 0 or infinity over infinity. So those are what we call the indeterminate forms. Okay? Indeterminate. So if you are faced with, okay, let's distinguish. Indeterminate is not the same as undefined. Because undefined can't do anything about it. But indeterminate forms, you can still perform analysis. Still do something. Okay. So what is L'Hopital's rule? Let's say we have to find a limit approaching some value of a rational function. Say it's a function in the numerator and a function in the denominator. Now, if you try to directly substitute a to the function, if it yields 0 over 0 or infinity over infinity, you can invoke L'Hopital's rule. What does that mean? So, the limit is still there, but the numerator is evaluated, differentiated separately. Also, the denominator. Okay. And now you don't have to use quotient rule. No, if you use quotient rule, you're already dead. You have to differentiate separately the numerator and denominator. Okay, it's L'Hopital's rule. Okay. Now there are this is what we call the primary indeterminate forms, this 0 over 0 or infinity over infinity. Now, what if there are different forms, no? Let's say we have the secondary indeterminate form, 0 times infinity. Now, we can rewrite this as 0 over 1 over infinity, something like that. Now, we know that this 1 over infinity approaches 0, yielding us with 0 over 0, which is the primary indeterminate form. If it is a primary indeterminate form, we can apply L'Hopital's rule. Again, you can only apply L'Hopital's rule to primary indeterminate form. No? Secondary indeterminate forms involve manipulating the function algebraically to resemble the primary indeterminate form. Okay. Oh, wait lang. Okay, conversely, we can use 1 over 0 infinity over 1 over 0. This 1 over 0, that is undefined, no? That is infinity. Yes, infinity over infinity, which is another indeterminate form. No? So, these are, primary indeterminate forms. Now, what about powers? Okay, like 1 raised to infinity, 0 raised to 0, or infinity raised to 0. We can take advantage of the natural logarithm of the limit, no? Then apply L'Hopital's rule. Then exponentiate the final answer. So I did not put a specific formula since it depends on the case. Then let's try to solve some examples. So evaluate the limit. Let me write that problem down. X approaches to limit as x approaches 2 of x cubed minus 7x squared plus 10x over x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, so if we try to directly substitute 2, so that will leave us with 2 cubed minus 7 squared plus 10 times 2 over squared plus 2 minus 6. Okay, that is 8 minus 428 plus 20 over 4 plus 2 minus 6. No, 8 minus 28, that is negative 20 plus 20, that is 0 over 4 plus 2, that is 6 minus 6, that is 0. Okay, that is a primary indeterminate form. Therefore, we can apply L'Hopital's rule. Let's apply L'Hopital's rule. Let's move this further down. Oh, something's left now. Let me try that again. All right. So how do we evaluate that limit? So first we have to differentiate, no? The numerator is 3x squared minus 14x plus 10. Then we differentiate the denominator separately. It is 2x plus 1. Now, as you can see, if you substitute 2 into the denominator, that will yield 2 times 2 plus 1, that is 5. That is not indeterminate form. Therefore, we can now evaluate the limit. So this notation will disappear, but you substitute the no, the limit is 3 squared minus 14 times 2 plus 10 over 2 times 2 plus 1, leaving us with 12 minus 28 plus 10 over 5. That is 22 minus 28, that is negative 6 over 5. Alright, that is our evaluated limit. Negative 6 over 5. For the next problem, that is power. Let's evaluate the limit. Okay. Limit of x raised to 1 over x as t. No, the variables are different. I think that is a typo. No. Limit of x raised to 1 over x as x approaches infinity. Okay. I think that's a typo, no? Because t is a different variable. Okay. First, we have to equate this to y. Yeah. Then we perform natural logarithm to both sides. So the left side will become ln y, and the right side will become ln of the limit x raised to 1 over x as x approaches infinity. Oh, wait. You have to verify if this is a secondary indeterminate form in the first place. If we substitute the limit directly, that will leave us with infinity raised to 1 over infinity or infinity raised to 0, which is part of our secondary indeterminate forms. Okay, so let's proceed. Now, since the we can put the ln inside. Oh no, we can put the limit outside, side of this function. So let me rearrange that. Right. Okay, so let's evaluate the ln. So using the rules of logarithms, we could bring down the 1 over x here. And ln x. Okay, that is, no, it's much better to write it as ln of x over x. Okay. Now, if we try to substitute, if we try to directly substitute infinity to this rational function, that leaves us with infinity over infinity, which is a secondary indeterminate form. Oh. For the denominator, it's obvious that it's infinity because you just directly substitute the infinity. But what about ln x? So here's how you evaluate ln x as x approaches infinity. So first, infinity is a very large number. So you can use, let's say, 999. Okay, so that will yield 6.907. Sir, that is not infinity, sir. So since we are approaching infinity, you have to, let's say, increase the number of nines. Let's say 5 nines. That will leave us with 11.513. Now, as you can see, it is increasing. It does not converge. to a specific value. It is diverging, but slowly. Of course, you have to make sure. Let's try to add two more nines. Let's say 7 nines. Okay. So that will leave us with 16.118. Now, as you can see, it is not converging to a single value. It is diverging, but very slowly, but still that is considered infinity or infinity over infinity. We can then apply L'Hopital's rule. No? So let's differentiate the numerator separately. Is 1 over x. Then differentiate the denominator, that is 1, leaving us with limit as x approaches infinity of 1 over x. Now, if we directly substitute infinity, actually you cannot directly substitute infinity, no? But 1 over x as x approaches infinity approaches, no, yan, 0. So let's copy the lny, no? ln y. So we are tasked to find this, no, which is the same as finding y. So let's find y. So using the relationship between the logarithm and the exponential, we have e raised to 0. Anything raised to 0 is yan, 1. So final answer. Okay, so that will be all for the basic concepts. We will tackle the more nuanced applications later. Okay, so that will be all. No, please ask your questions on Blackboard if you have any concerns. We will address them in class. No? I will keep your name anonymous. Just express your concerns, and we will deal with them one by one. Okay, that will be all. I will now stop recording. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.